Hi, mystery writers. What a week, huh? Anyway, welcome. And first, I wanted to um, talk about tech just for a minute for our group. Today, I'm using StreamYard. Last week, I used Ecamm. Um, it's a little easier to comment with Ecamm than it is with StreamYard. For instance, if you'd like to comment today, you need to go up above the post in Facebook and allow StreamYard to access your profile. So, um, on the other hand, StreamYard allows me to easily bring someone in, like if we want to interview a member of the group about their writing process or something like that. So, and I would really love to do that. So, So I'm kind of 50-50 on how to connect with you all. All right. So our group, as we grow, we have a number of new or beginning writers. And I would really love you, those of you who are more seasoned, who have written a book or written several books, to jump in and comment. Today, I want to talk about when your story feels squeezed, because it does happen. Story planning helps you write faster. There's no doubt about that. Planning is why writers who start out as pantsers convert to planning, and it really helps. You can focus on each scene as you're writing and know how it fits into the entire story. So, story structure helps you navigate the highs and lows of your story and plan for major turning points that move the story. And part of it is depending on which story structure you choose, you'll find a list of what that story structure considers must have story events. And right off the bat, it gets confusing. So the hero's journey has 12, Save the Cat has 15 beats, John Truby's Anatomy of a Story has 22 steps, and the 7-point story structure has 7. Um, I just wanted to mention Plotter, the story planning app, has 17 different ready-to-use templates to help you set up your plot outline. So if you're a planner, you spend time writing notes for each major event and the chapters and each scene in your novel, and then comes the writing. And I know we have a member in the group here who considers himself a pantser, but actually does a lot of planning as he writes. Okay. Um, The thing is, and new writers, you need to be prepared for this. The thing is, something happens as you're writing your story. Characters speak and take action in ways you hadn't planned. So even if you've planned out the scene, all of a sudden, as you're writing the scene, the character says something you never would have thought of in the planning stage, and you actually like it and you want to include it in your story. And although the story isn't derailed, you make subtle shifts in the scene in order for the character's choices to shift from that original plan. So, story structures are meant as guidelines. And if you find yourself trying to squeeze the story into the structure, it feels really awkward. I know back over 10 years ago now, when I was screenwriting, and I was trying to use Save the Cat, which is a really wonderful way of thinking through a story. But I kept getting stuck. I kept going, okay, if we put this scene in, where does it fit in this beat pattern? And am I doing this right? And all of a sudden, I got pulled out of creating the story and trying to jam everything into this story structure, and it really felt uncomfortable. It felt awkward, and I decided I was working at that time with a co-writer, and we decided to just go with this story and use the Save the Cat formula as a way to check the story after we had written. And I know that's the way that many pantsers use story outlines. Um, so how will you get from that scene where the character just did something unexpected to that major plot turn that theoretically comes next in your story? That's where it starts to feel really uncomfortable. You've got this plan, and then you have your story, and your character does something weird. So, what I want to say for you beginning writers is stop trying to squeeze your story. Listen to your characters. Planning is logical. Storytelling is intuitive. So left brain, right brain, call them what you will. Planning, like editing, uses a completely different brain circuits. And while you're writing, you want to stay in the intuitive mode. That's when we get in the flow of writing and things just go. So trying to jam your story into a format can crush your storytelling flow, and you don't want that to happen. And you know what it's like when you're in the flow and your characters take charge and make the scene happen, and they say things that you had never planned in your logical mode, and they take actions that are nowhere in your outline scene notes. Um, so those creative adjustments make you feel as though your story's going off track if you're a beginning writer. But if you pay attention to the characters, you find they are doing the right thing for this story, and they are being themselves. You've created these characters, and now they're acting in character. Uh, and you, as the writer, are in touch with your characters. So, whoa, your characters help you write the story. So keep writing. When you keep going with the characters, you'll find your story still falls into place. That was the thing I discovered when we were writing those film scripts, is that we certainly had watched a million films and knew enough about story structure to know the general overall pattern. And that when we went with the characters and plan and wrote what we thought the scene should be, when we went back, the characters had actually taken us on the right story journey. So it comes to, I'm saying this for beginning writers because there's a lot to learn about trusting the writing process. When you keep going with the characters, you'll find the story falls into place. And you may end up with a scene or two you hadn't planned, or a scene that jogs the story in a new way, but just keep writing and trust the process. If you overthink and try to confine the characters to your pre-planned outline, your story will feel squeezed, and your readers will feel that squeeze. They're like, it, your story doesn't flow, essentially. So allow your mind the freedom to create, to let your characters express their traits by saying and doing what they need to do. And I think as you grow in your writing process, you'll learn to trust your characters. You find when you reach the logical editing process, so outlining logic, editing logic, story creation, intuitive, all right? So when you reach the logical editing process, you'll be surprised how you still meet the major turning points and beats of your story. So planning helps you keep your story on track and reach story goals as you write, and the characters fill in the action. And even though they may change from your original story plan, the original major story events are still there. So the next time you feel like you're trying to squeeze your story into your structure, keep going with your characters and write. I believe in planning. It does help you write faster. Um, but trust your characters. And I think this is something that beginning writers can practice, is trusting your writing flow, trusting your characters, trusting the things they say and do. For the most part, they're going to make your story better. Don't forget you have that logical editing stage at the end. But while you're writing, trust your characters because they do come up with great ideas. So that's essentially what I had to say today about squeezing your story. And I would love for experienced writers to chime in with one, if that's happened to you. It's certainly happened to me. If that's happened to you and how you overcome it. Um, because I think when you're just starting story writing, it's good to know that these experiences happen to everyone, that you're not alone. It's sort of like being in a babysitting co-op when you have kids and you talk to the other parents, and all of a sudden you discover that you aren't the only parent who felt like throwing their baby that had been crying for hours, just doing a lob shot out the window. um, and it's the same thing with writing. New writers need to understand that there are challenges, and that if you try planning too hard, you're actually limiting your story instead of letting it flow. Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much for being in the Mystery Writers Studio, and I'll see you next week.